All right, welcome back, everyone. Let's jump right into today's explainer because we have a truly fascinating subject lined up. We are exploring the popular childhood pastimes or Leelas of Lord Krishna. But we aren't just taking these ancient texts at face value as simple folktales. No, we're going to unpack the true meaning behind them, specifically zeroing in on the powerful recurring symbolism of the fruit. Whether we're talking about a literal sweet treat or the absolute ultimate spiritual reward, there is so much depth to uncover here. So let's dive right in. So, right off the bat, we run into the central paradox of this whole explainer. We have all these famous accounts of young Krishna basically acting like a total menace, right? He's a mischievous thief who steals food, smashes pots, and drives the villagers absolutely crazy. But at the exact same time, the sources tell us that through this literal thievery and chaos, he's actually bestowing the greatest rewards in the universe upon those very same villagers. It really makes you wonder, how can a kid making a giant mess actually be granting ultimate spiritual liberation? Well, keep that in the back of your mind as we go through these next few stories.
Section 1. Craving Sweet Fruits. A Literal Beginning. Okay, according to the Srimad Bhagavatam, little Krishna was playing at his home in Gokul when he heard the super melodic voice of a fruit vendor passing by outside. She was calling out, trying to sell these ripe, juicy jambul fruits, which you might also know as jamun. Now, Krishna absolutely loved jambul fruits. The text describes how this instantly drew the mesmerizingly beautiful child straight to the gates of his home. He's standing there with his little palms open, eagerly asking the woman for some of her sweet fruits. The vendor tells him, well, you have to give me something in return to actually buy the fruit. So the little boy runs back inside and just grabs a handful of grains. But his hands are so small that he's leaving this trail of spilled grains all the way back to the front gate. By the time he gets there, he drops what little is left into her hands. And she's so charmed that she lovingly fills his small arms with as many jambul fruits as he can possibly hold. But here's where it gets wild. When the vendor later puts her basket down, she discovers that those few little grains had completely transformed into precious multicolored gemstones. He exchanged a simple, literal fruit for this miraculous, overflowing reward.
Section 2. The Forest's Bounty, Guarding Shared Joy. The sources also recount the famous story of the Talavana forest. Now, this was a place filled with tala fruits, which had an aroma so incredibly sweet that literally even the heavenly beings craved them. The catch? It was fiercely guarded by this deadly, totally merciless donkey demon named Dhenukasura. He was hoarding all the fruits solely for his wicked king Kamsa. Well, when Krishna's cows naturally wandered into the forest, lured by that amazing smell, Krishna and his friends followed right behind them. And they didn't run away. They actually battled the angry demon Dhenukasura. And they did this specifically so that all the residents of Vrindavan could freely enjoy those heavenly tala fruits. So you see, the divine fruit in this instance is really all about shared joy and removing toxic barriers.
Section 3. The Butter Thief. Stealing Hearts.
Now we get to the absolute classic image, Krishna caught in the act. The village women, the gopis, would spend all this time carefully churning yogurt into butter and then hiding it away in these pitch-dark earthen pots. But, as we know, Krishna had quite a notorious reputation. The texts describe how he'd sneak right into those dark storerooms. And get this, he would literally use the natural, shining effulgent of his own body to light up the room. He was basically his own flashlight, easily spotting their hidden stock and completely raiding it. So, the gopis would constantly go to Krishna's mother, Yashoda, with this hilarious rapid-fire laundry list of complaints. I mean, they'd say he unties the calves early before the cows are even milked, he stacks tables on top of each other just to reach the really high pots, and if he couldn't eat it all, he'd just feed the stolen butter to the monkeys. Then, when the monkeys were stuffed, he'd literally just smash the pots on the ground. He'd even tease sleeping babies to make them cry or throw dirt all over their freshly painted houses. It was just absolute joyful chaos everywhere he went. But here's the crucial takeaway, captured perfectly in this quote from the source material. It says, "The real spoils of his thievery are not milk and butter, rather they are the hearts of the residents." That's the secret right there. Krishna's mischievous thievery was actually this profound mechanism. By stealing their butter, by making them chase him around, and by constantly being on their minds 24/7, he was creating this incredibly deep, unbreakable connection. He wasn't really stealing their dairy, he was stealing their hearts, essentially harvesting the true fruit of their devotion.
Section 4. Stripping Attachments. Destroying Human Ego.
We actually see this dynamic most vividly in the story where Krishna steals the gopis' clothes while they were bathing in the river. He essentially took their garments all the way up into a tree and made them come out to retrieve them. Now, on the surface, I know, this sounds purely mischievous, But the sources explain this impartially as a deeply, deeply spiritual act. By forcing them to appear before him without their clothes, Krishna was systematically destroying their sense of material shame. In this context, that shame was considered a fetter. It was a literal barrier keeping their souls from fully attaining and surrendering to the divine. So he was stealing their ego in order to grant them ultimate spiritual upliftment. This whole concept is so powerfully summarized in this quote from Sri Srimad Gar Govindaswamy Maharaja. He points out that one of the actual names for the divine, Hari, literally translates to one who steals. The text explains that this divine thievery is, believe it or not, a special favor. By taking away material wealth, possessions, and sometimes even relations, even to the point of making someone totally destitute, the divine is stripping away all those worldly safety nets. Why? Because it completely forces the devotee to take ultimate, complete shelter in the divine and nothing else.
But hey, a very, very important distinction needs to be made here. There is divine prerogative, where Krishna steals to liberate souls, and then there is just everyday material thievery. The text recount this amazing anecdote from the 1970s, where some young Western disciples in Vrindavan started literally snatching sweets from the local shops. Their excuse? They claimed they were just imitating Lord Krishna. Well, their teacher, Srila Prabhupada, sharply scolded them. He basically asked, "Can you lift a mountain like Krishna did? No? Then you have absolutely no right to act like him." The takeaway there is crystal clear. Only the divine has the prerogative to steal in this liberating way. For the rest of us, it's just plain looting.
Section 5. The ultimate fruit, a supreme reward. To really understand the ultimate meaning behind all this, we have to look at the famous Damodara Leela. After Krishna broke yet another pot of yogurt and made a massive mess, his mother Yashoda finally managed to catch him. She decided to punish him by tying him up to this heavy wooden grinding mortar. But then, this miracle happened. No matter how much rope she added, no matter how many pieces she tied together, the rope always fell exactly 2 fingers short. She was literally attempting to bind the unbound, infinite divine with a simple, material rope. And that leads us directly to the concept of phalam uttamam, which translates to the ultimate fruit. Think back to those literal jambul or tal fruits from the very beginning of this explainer. Those were sweet, sure, but they were temporary. The phalam uttamam is the supreme, everlasting reward of spiritual liberation. The texts state that this ultimate fruit can be achieved by even a single moment's association with the divine or a pure devotee.
So how does this connect back to the heavy wooden mortar? Well, Yashoda eventually did manage to tie Krishna, but purely because he allowed it out of her deep love for him. But little Krishna simply started crawling, dragging that massive mortar right behind him. He dragged it straight between 2 closely rooted trees, and the sheer force of that mortar wedged between them cracked the trees, and they came crashing down. Out of those fallen trees emerged 2 celestial beings, Nalakuvara and Managriva, who had been trapped inside them by an ancient curse. Through his playful, totally mischievous crawling, Krishna liberated them on the spot, bestowing upon them that exact phalam uttamam, the true ultimate fruit of devotion.
Which brings us to the end of our explainer today, and I really want to leave you with a question to ponder. We've seen how Krishna's mischief wasn't really about the butter or the clothes or those jambul fruits. It was entirely about stealing away the ego and the barriers of his devotees so he could give them that ultimate spiritual fruit. So take a look at your own life for a second. What material attachments, what pots of butter or shame do you need stolen from you to find your own ultimate fruit? It really completely reframes how we view lost and spiritual growth, doesn't it? Thank you so much for joining me today, and I genuinely hope this deep dive leaves you eager to explore more of the profound meanings hidden in these ancient texts.